all of my free time has been watching this show.
Mm-hmm.
You had me watch a 30-hour drama.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And not just a 30-hour drama, a 30-hour drama that I knew none of the languages that were being spoken in it. So I had to give my undivided attention to this drama for these 30 hours, which meant I could never take my eyes off the screen to multitask.
Right. This is the problem I have watching Korean dramas too. You can't do anything else. You have to continue to watch it directly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when you were like, oh, I'm going to make this my next topic, and I'm like, okay, that sounds great.
And you made the comment once that, I'll do my grading at the same time. And I was like, wait, how? How are you going to do that?
Yeah. I was foolish because it was, for the past couple of weeks, all of my available free time was, all right, 1 or 2 more episodes. But oh my gosh, is it feel like a relief to finally be like, oh yes, I have free time again. Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 49.
Everyone has things they are passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on. I besmirched the Bridge to Terabithia movie in earlier episodes of this show, a little follow-up. And after we did our Bridge to Terabithia episode, I was like, hey, maybe I should watch that movie again just to make sure that my besmirchment was accurate. But in watching the movie, I actually was impressed with the movie this time around. Now, I don't really know if you can watch the movie. I guess it's just like any movie, right? You can watch the movie based on a book and not get everything, but still, kind of enjoy it. And I think that's going to be the case with this movie too. Yes, you can see at the very beginning him practicing running and then losing the race and all that stuff. And it kind of conveys the same feeling the book does, I think. But I'm wondering, am I feeling that same way because I already read it and I was expecting how I should feel? I don't know. I do think the movie does a very good job, though, of showing you and not telling you some of the things that is just portrayed in narrator speak in the book. So I think it's not bad, but the book is, of course, better.
I'm withholding judgment until part 2 comes out, but I thought Dune was a very good movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It really depends on what's done.
Do you think there's a difference between movies that were made for those that read the book and movies that were made for those who didn't read the book? Or are they, I guess they're always making movies for those that didn't read the book, but also pandering to those who did, right?
I think they're trying to make it as broad appeal as possible.
Right.
I mean, for example, with the Dune movie, there was a lot that I got out of it because I had read the book, because I knew what was coming. Yes, there were certain things that they cut out, but I feel like a lot of what they cut out were things that were hard to show.
Yeah, hard to show or didn't move the plot along, do you think?
No, I think it was more of the things that were harder to show, like a lot of the internal dialogue.
Oh, yeah. That's right, you said that. Mm-hmm. And I think the only thing that really bothered me, I think, about the Bridge to Terabithia movie was that the ending felt rushed. Well, maybe it felt rushed because I expected...
Well, I mean, to be completely fair, the ending in the book is quick.
Yeah, it's quick, but it's still like a quarter of the book, right? I mean, it's 20-ish, 25 pages.
Again, I listened to the book. I didn't read the book.
Yeah, that's true.
You say 20 pages. The number of pages means nothing to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're sucked in by that point too, right? Mm-hmm. So it goes fast in the reading.
Yep.
Because you want to know what's happening. But it's only like the last 5 minutes of the movie. I felt like it was rushed. Because they just whipped through the things. Boom, boom, boom. But they hit all the main points, right? They had the father talking with Jess. They had the teacher talking with Jess in the hallway. They hit all the points the book had, actually. But it just felt fast.
I think that the ending is fast, though, in that book.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference is, like you're saying, I think, it's hard to show Jess's inner monologue in a movie. Mm-hmm. In the book, we could feel it. We could hear him working through everything.
Whereas in the movie, you can show the conversations and you can have the actor try to show that on their face. But unless you do a voiceover, you really can't do the inner monologue, and you shouldn't do a voiceover.
No. So I guess maybe that's why, because I wasn't able to hear Jess's inner monologue. I mean, again, like you said, they shouldn't have done anything different, most likely. But because I couldn't hear him processing it, it felt rushed. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it is. Anyway. But, they hit the point, so you could, I guess, for those that hadn't read the book, you could see him making the jump to acceptance. The whole breakfast scene seems a little bit out of place because you're not hearing Jess's inner monologue, right? So I think that's the one that probably suffers the most. But his conversation with his father and his conversation with the teacher really do help move things along. But because you're not hearing him, I think that's where it suffers. Not as bad of a movie as I thought. It was a much better movie than I had expected.
I've talked about my pet projects that have gone nowhere, so you should at least talk about your pet project that actually has legs.
Has gone somewhere? Well, that's part of the story, actually. So Ryan, it is the change of this quarter. You know this because you teach a quarter class.
Yeah.
And the registrar has asked me to put something into the project that I've been spending all my time on. The project that has delayed this podcast a few times. Sorry. But I have begun working on...
Oh, you're going to actually say what it is this time.
Well, I'm going to do everything but name it, I think. I'm not telling you the name of it. I'm sorry, because there's nothing there if you don't have a login. So a few years ago, we looked for an online gradebook replacement software. We had a piece of software at school that we had contracted out with a company. And when we signed up with them, there were these holes. For instance, we do standards-based grading.
Well, specifically, we do standards-based grading for middle school.
Yes.
Because we are a K through 12 school, and our high school does traditional grades.
But our middle school does standards-based. And our middle school uses a 4-level scale with no evidence as a possible entry to. So technically, it's 5 levels. But the piece of software that we were signing up for only had 3 levels. And that was it, 3. There was no other choices. 3 was it. And I said to them, that's a little weird. Can't we have another level or 2? And they said, oh, yeah. That sounds like a good goal. We'll program that and we'll get back to you. But in the meanwhile, why don't you do it this way? Which was basically using the traditional system, but kind of bending over backwards a few ways just to get it to work. Like, it worked, but it was not convenient for the teachers. And it wasn't necessarily convenient for the parents or students looking up the data either.
The long and the short, if I recall correctly, was they wanted us to use the rubric system.
Yes.
And do standards-based grading by using traditional grading and then inserting a rubric and grading according to that rubric.
Now, at least luckily, I mean, to their credit, at least you could copy rubrics from assessment to assessment. So it wasn't the teachers weren't putting it in every time, but still, it was annoying, to say the least. So we're like, fine, we can live with it for the year. We'll do this for a year. And, you guys get the 4-scale thing in for us, and then we'll jump over to the standards-based one. We'll switch over. No problems. Well, a year passed, and 2 years passed, and 3 years passed, and 4 years passed. And we had a few other requests in the meanwhile, the standards-based one being the biggest. And they never got to any of them. And every time we asked them what they were working on something silly, something like, oh yeah, we had to come up with this new 2-factor authentication system. And I was like, why? Why do you need that? Anyway, I got to come back to that criticism later, I think, because I think that can be, some people can criticize too, I think, in some ways. Since I'm a one-man programming shop, at some point I'll have to be working on the marketing site. And all my current clients will be like, why? Why are you working on that? Because I need more clients. Anyway, so I think I can have that criticism too. But anyway.
Well, at that point, you have to start hiring out.
Yeah. Well, I can't hire out if I don't have enough people signed up for it. So I decided that I would build my own. That's what we're hinting at here. I decided that I would build my own grading system because how hard can it be, right, Ryan? No, I didn't actually say that. I knew how hard it could be.
No. You looked at me and went, this is going to be absolutely awful, but I don't see a way around it.
Yeah, because we looked around. Me and another one of our colleagues in our office looked around at a whole bunch of pieces of software. And we're like, oh, this one's standards-based. Does this work? Well, it works, but it's annoying. Or, well, it works at standards-based, but doesn't work with traditional. Or, well, it does this, but not this. There were just a lot of trade-offs. And I don't understand why in 2021, when schools are everywhere, why do we have to have trade-offs in a piece of software like grading? Like, what is that? I don't understand that. So I decided that, yep, I'm going to build on my own. And yeah, I knew exactly how hard it would be. I knew that this would be very hard. I knew that it would take me quite a while to even get to a working piece of software in general. And it has. It's taken me, I think I'm at 1.5 years now, right? From the first few lines of code. I think I started in April of...
Yeah, that sounds about right. But some people decided to get Pelotons for the quarantine. You decided to build from the ground up a whole new grading system.
I mean, this is what I like to do. So, I mean, this is what I like to solve these things with code. Like, yeah, I mean, even there was something I wrote today that was just, a great problem to solve. Never had to solve this problem before. And I was able to solve it in a unique way. I mean, that's the thing that I like to do. So, yep, I started working on it way back then. I got a working prototype done in the first 6 months in order to do standards-based grading only, so that our middle school, which was the one in most dire need of switching, to be able to switch. So our middle school was able to switch about 1 year ago now to score the standard-based grades that we needed. And then, it's super annoying for us to have only one division in one grading platform and the other divisions in the other grading platform. We've had that in the past, and it's annoying for parents because they have to log into 2 different places when they have kids spanning divisions. So I worked as fast as I could this summer to complete the traditional grading system. Well, actually, I worked on it last spring, I guess, more. Worked on it last spring and then finishing touches this summer so that our high school could switch to using what I've developed as our grading platform. I've gotten pretty far. So as we said, the quarter's changing, and the registrar asked me now, oh, wouldn't it be nice? I mean, she's very polite, of course, our registrar.
She's a fantastic person. She has these wonderful dreams about, wouldn't it be nice if we did this? And they're all true. They're all fantastic and would be nice if we did them. It just means usually work for one of us.
Work for us to do. Well, and this one's expected. She's asking for, and something that I've promised her, a way to export the overall grades out of the system into our report card system so that she can start preparing the report cards.
You mean, God forbid, we actually be able to transfer the grades to our report cards?
Right. So, yep, sure enough, I got that working this weekend. A few more lines of code here and there. And, and again, here's the thing, too. Like, I didn't build it completely out, and this is why I was telling you earlier, I definitely want to do more touch-ups. This is never done. Right now, I've built it so that she hits just one button, export, and it exports. But the way that I've set it up is so that eventually, out of any place you are, you can hit an export button and then decide, what order would you like the fields in? How would you like that export? Which ones do you want? Which ones don't you want? Because, lots of data in the system. That is not the problem. How do you want them? In what order do you want them? So I've built it so that that's available. Right now, she can't do that yet, but that can be easily added. Even in the import system, right? Even in how the registrar, again, this is one of the things I had to work on this summer. How does she add classes and add students and add teachers to classes? How does she add all that? Well, she gets files out of our database, our school information system, and then straight imports them into my program. And one of the nice things I did with that was you can import the fields in whatever order you want to. If your database system, your school information system, has the class name and then the section number, well, it'll accept it in that order. Well, if you have a section number and then class name, well, it'll accept it in that order. Why do I care? Like, how come I can't make it super flexible? Why do people have to, in our old system, you had to export it in this order with these columns, with these column headers, blah, 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 very strict. So the import system I built was, I accept a whole bunch of different column headers. If you call it class_name or class, it knows, that's probably the name. It'll just accept it. So that way, people call me like, my system calls it this. Great, then I'll just, add that as a possible title for it. Because I hate those kind of limitations. Why can't you just accept it? So the export thing, eventually you'll be able to reorder the columns in the order you want them. But right now, it just spits them out in the, for every export, there'll be a default. So right now, I've just set it up for the default overall export. And if you want a default, classes export, you can do that too. I'll have one of those too. But if you want to reorder, you can. You can reorder the export into whatever order you want it to be. I mean, I was kind of realizing this as I was building it, but one of the nice things about the import was I allow people to import their registration ID. Like, so if you think about a piece of data in our database, every student that is registered for a class is on a registration record. And that registration record holds the student number and the class number. And then in our system, it also holds the overall grades. And as you import that into my program, it keeps your registration number and says, oh, yeah, this is what you imported. You told me that this was this record. And that way, one of the nice things too is when she re-uploads, like let's say some new students came into the school, which happens all the time, or students move around or whatever, she re-uploads the file. It can say, oh, I see that registration number. Oh, I see that nothing's changed. Okay, I'll just skip it. So it just moves on. So it just takes it every time and says, oh, yeah, I already have that one. Don't make a new one, because she's importing thousands of records at a time. So it says, yep, I see that one. Don't make a new one, which means that there's no duplicates made. She doesn't have to sit there and say, well, I only changed these 3 records, so I have to force our school information system to only export those 3 records. No, she doesn't have to sit there and do that. She can just make a file every single time that has all the records and upload it every time and not have to worry about picking that stuff again, making it as flexible as I can. So now when I come to export, well, I have that piece of data. I say, oh, yeah, this is this registration number. So now when I export that, I should be able to bring that to our school information system and say, hey, this is the record you gave me. Here's the data I'm spitting back at you. Now you could just put the letter grade that my program came out with and dump it right into the right record without even questioning, oh, was it this student ID? Was it this class number? No, it's this registration number. I know exactly which one I'm talking about. So actually the import into our system is going to be much nicer. Looking forward to that. Anyway, that was a long explanation for something really boring.
Well,
I mean, there's so many fun puzzles here.
And that's the thing, is it's a series of puzzles.
Right. It's a series of puzzles, and I get a product at the end. I mean, I was telling somebody recently, and I was saying, I like to do puzzles without looking at the picture. Now, generally, puzzles that you do on a table, they're going to work out to a square edge and blah, blah, blah. Most of them, anyway. So, there are certain constraints already. And even this program that I'm building here has constraints. Some of them I know now. Some of them I'll know later as I build it. But I don't know the final picture of this one. Now, if I was a really good software programmer, I would have sketched everything out and said, oh, yeah, here's all my constraints are going to be, and here's what the interface needs to look like and stuff like that. But right now, I've lucked out in such a way that, I've lucked out and planned ahead at the same time, both of them, that I know that more interface elements will be built here, so I'll leave space for them. More interface elements will be built here. I'll leave space for them. But I generally do okay with user interface design, but I do know that even my program now can be considered a little busy. I was thinking the other day, so one of the features that I recently built is a sheet view. Now, this is the most dense view of data that I have, right? I'm trying to squeeze a whole bunch of functionality into a small amount of space.
I don't feel like it's too busy, but it looks like a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it looks like a spreadsheet. So I was looking at another grade book recently. Just somebody said, oh, look, this grade book's free online. So I took a look at it and ran through its demo. And I looked at its sheet view, and it is dense in the fact that, yes, it has the most amount of data. It's got, it's got assignments on the top and students along the side. And then it's got a sheet of numbers in the middle. But that's it. It's a sheet of numbers, and that's all you can change. You can't change anything else. You can just change the one grade. My sheet view, yes, it has numbers. Assignments along the top, students along the side. And yes, it has the grades in there. But I do end up being able to give the teachers complete control over those numbers. All of the things that you can get in the assignment view when you're looking at one assignment, and you can pick the kid took another attempt at it. I want to select them as missing or late, or add a comment for this student, or put a date submitted for this attempt. You can do all of that in the assignment view, but you can also do it in sheet view, which again makes it a bit more dense and have a lot of pop-up windows to fill in that data for you. But it does make things busy, right? So I got to be careful.
Speaking of this, especially with the fact that just this past week was parent-teacher conferences, I did have one teacher who was talking about how when they went to print off the grades, it was like 5 pages for one kid worth of trying to get like a grade report kind of thing. So maybe for like a 2.0 feature kind of thing, having a print view would be nice, especially for conferences, like a conference print view. So it's like a summary rather than...
Yeah, not printing all the assessments.
Or if you print all the assessments, you give like just the bare amount of information and you make it smaller.
Yep. Yeah, you have a big font really for printing. It's a little bit too big for printing. I do have a somewhat thought out print layout. Like it strips away all the buttons, the things that you can't click when you print it, right? I don't need to have the filter button or the sort button in the printed view because you're not going to be filtering or sorting after you print it. But that being said, the font is still a little large. Actually, a teacher came up to me as they were trying to print these things out and said, "Oh, I can only get one page, actually. There's a lot more assignments, but I can only get one page." This was a teacher that had maybe 2 pages of at least assignments. And I realized that the stuff that I had put in place for grid view to show up properly was cutting the print view off and only forcing it to one page. So I was able to fix it for that teacher. So I guess, I was able to fix it in general and then fixed it for everybody. So I guess the teacher you were talking to was after I had fixed it.
Yeah, it was after you had fixed it. It was Keith.
Oh, yeah.
And Keith has a lot of daily assignments.
Right. So that's going to push it real long.
So...
Well, if you filter out the daily assignments, then what does that do?
I don't know.
Yeah, I got to take a look.
Again, I think that's definitely more of a 2.0 kind of thing.
Yeah. That's one of the things I'm trying to figure out. What is a 2.0 feature and what is a 1.0 feature? Now, there's a lot of those things I'm balancing. Exporting overall grades is definitely a 1.0 feature. You need that to be able to go to whatever report card system you're doing, so that has to be there. But alongside that, and here's the other thing I wanted to tell you. I belong to a mailing list of schools, and somebody in the mailing list said, "Oh, hey, we're looking for a piece of software to do grading." They had a few requirements. So I sent in a reply. So I was very hesitant. Should I do this? Should I not? Because it's a mailing list. There's a lot of other people besides this one lady reading these messages. But I decided, sure, this time I will. I'm still not at product stage. And I made it very clear. I told the quick and dirty story. Yep, we were looking for a thing a few years ago. We couldn't find anything, so I decided to do my own. It's in beta now, but my school is using it. If you're interested in joining the beta, here's some screenshots. Contact me. So I actually had a guy contact me. A head of school has contacted me and said, "Yeah, I'd like to see what you got." So I took a quick look back at my original message and I said, "Did I say it's beta?" "Okay, I did. I said it was beta." "It's very clear. This is not done." "Okay, good." I was like, oh goodness, did I overpromise yet again? I don't want to be overpromising.
No, what you do is you'd say it's going to take a month so that when it only takes a week, you seem like a miracle worker.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe I should say it'll take 5 years and then take 2 or 1. I really am aiming to get to product stage by the end of this coming summer. I'm focusing on that. I have to reach product stage by the end of this coming summer. There's a bunch to do, but again, the stuff that has to be done is mostly on the registrar end, right? The teacher stuff, with some minor exceptions, is fairly complete. I think the biggest missing thing, and I told the teachers at our school this right off the bat, I'm like, look, I'm releasing sheet view to you, but it doesn't calculate overall grade in the sheet view, which I'm sure is really annoying to some teachers that you can't see the overall grade for a student in sheet view. But there's a lot of calculation that has to be done to do that, so I'm just going to put it off for right now.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that you can see that overall grade in every other view.
Exactly. You can see it in every other view but this one. It's really annoying, I think. To me, it would be really annoying if I was using it too. But because I want this to be super nice for teachers to use, in the assessment view, if you change a grade, the overall grade changes immediately. Lickety split. As you're changing the grade, you see the overall grade change, right? So it's super nice to use. You can see exactly how it's affecting the overall grade. In fact, there is a feature already in the program where you can mark a assignment excluded because you don't want anybody to see it yet. Then you can go back to assessment view, enter a grade in, and you can see how it would affect the overall grade if it was included. So even if you have a grade that's not included, you can kind of see how it's going to affect the overall grade. You can see the overall grade and then also see what the overall grade would be like if that assessment was included. So again, I like to see it changing right away. Why do you have to wait half a second for the server to respond? It's simple math. And you know what? The client computers are very fast. Even the phones are very fast. Again, another thing is this all has to work on the phone. That was huge, disappointing in our previous one where it didn't work on the phone. And this has to work on a phone. It has to work on an iPad. You have to be able to do it on all those devices, and it does. Except for Sheet View. Sheet View doesn't work on the phone. I'm sorry. I'm not going to build that one. It's just too much data in one place. Too hard to organize that on a phone view. Because Sheet View is just a replication of all the data from other places, right? So,
yeah, and quite honestly, the closest I can see is making sure that it still works on a tablet.
Yep. Everything still works on a tablet. Everything. At the moment, there's only one small feature that's not working on touch screens. And I know what it is, and it's not critical at the moment, so I'm putting it off, but I have some thoughts on how to program around it for tablets.
That's future Nate's problem.
Yeah, I will get to it. It's in my list of things, but it's not critical. So yeah, the biggest things right now are the things for the registrar. It's very skimpy in that area. It is just barely enough information to get her to do what she needs to do, but she needs much more stuff. And then also, probably as 1.1 or 1.5 features, also more reporting in that area too. One thing I'd like to do is how many people logged in this past week. Show the principals that, like, oh, this many students, this many parents have logged in the past week. And then start getting into some things like, okay, on these standards, how many kids are getting at least, this level of grade, right? Like those kinds of features too, so that they could say, oh, where in our school do we need to be working on what standards? And then tying standards to something like student objectives or student outcomes, whatever your school calls them. How are we doing on our student outcomes, our student objectives? How are we doing on those? So things like that, big picture things. I've got lots of plans. Lots of work to go. But, the biggest thing is, can teachers put grades in? Yes, teachers can put grades in. We're there. And there's a few things that they're missing, but nothing mission critical right now. Well, then the second question is, can the registrar do everything she needs to do? And the answer is no. She can put classes, and she can put registrations, and she can put teaching assignments. But she can't add any users. Unfortunately, I still have to do that. I have to put them directly into the system, which is super annoying. So I want to get something for that. Yeah, so there's things to do, but not horrible. Definitely, I want to get to at least the product stage by the end of next summer.
Well, I think that it's a good product so far.
Thank you. And because themes were the critical feature, right? I mean, really.
Well,
I have gotten a few requests for more themes.
People just need to teach less classes if they care that much about different themes. They should only teach 3 classes.
I haven't gotten too many requests for the hot pink theme yet. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of hot pink ones. I'd like a gray one.
Oh, really? A gray one?
Simple gray.
I was thinking I need something orange.
Orange would be nice. Yeah, there's a lot of different colors I can think of that would be like, oh yeah, it'd be great if we just had like these colors.
Mm-hmm.
And where are my falling sakura petals?
Yeah, they're probably not going to do that one. Well, I was going to say, I did watch Cruella.
Oh, you did?
Yesterday. Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of it?
I actually thought, so we talked about this, how Walt Disney in some ways is trying to paint their villains not as less villainous, but trying to give them reasons why they're so nasty.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by the end of Cruella, you're like, well, she's not actually as nasty as the villainous villain. You see her crazy streak, so then I guess you're like, well, I guess she gets crazy again later on down the road.
Yeah.
Of course, they introduce you to Anita and Jim Deere.
Mm-hmm.
No, not Jim Deere. Jim Deere's the other.
I know who you're...
I forget the boy's name, but the one who owns Pongo and the one who owns Perdita.
All I can think of is Pongo.
Yeah, me too. The one who owns Pongo and the one who owns Perdita. You learned about them early in the movie. Roger. So you learn about them. But anyway.
No, see, my problem, and here's the thing. My number one problem is her relationship with the bandits.
Yes. Which explains why she has the bandits around later in the movie, which I thought actually, oh, that's not bad. That's why she keeps them around.
Yeah, but the fact that, like, they were basically her found family for most of her childhood. Like, that was her family. And suddenly, yes, in this movie, occasionally she started treating them like garbage, but then had a change of heart and was treating them better after some stuff happened in the movie. Well, then it rolls back all that character development for the Disney movie then. Yeah, you can attribute that to some of her more unpredictable streaks, but I still felt like, for me, the big thing that I had an issue with was her relationship with the bandits meant that that family relationship she had with them would have a lot more ramifications, I guess is the best way to put it, than what would be represented in the Disney movie. Like, those are her family, and she treats them like that. Yeah, okay. It gives an explanation on why the bandits are around, yeah, but...
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, too, with her personality, too. Like, she's pretty crazy in the movies. Well, not the prequels, but the, 101 Dalmatians. But in this movie, she's shown to be crazy, yes. But then she comes back down to earth, to an extent. She still has a crazy streak, but at least she's grounded again in her friends, the bandits. It doesn't really feed in. It doesn't really connect.
Yeah, it feels like a different story.
Right. Actually, it would have been better, I think, in some ways, if they had broken her in this movie at the end so that she was crazy to feed into the 101 Dalmatians.
I will say that, like, I don't know how I feel about them attributing everything about the way she is acting to basically mental health issues. Like, I'm not fully on board with that. But, you could just say that it's undiagnosed mental health issues or something like that. Hollywood has never been really fair with treating mental health with the importance it deserves, I guess is the best way to put it.
I mean, in some ways, she's kind of copying somebody who has...
Yeah.
Well, potentially some other mental issues, I guess that's just, possibly. So, yeah, they're not dealing with that one well either, are they?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's one thing if it had been, like, her character breaking down, but this almost feels like they're attributing this to a genetic thing.
Now, see, I guess what I'm trying to struggle with is, too, in Maleficent, I don't really remember how Maleficent ends, but I thought Maleficent fed more into Sleeping Beauty, right? I thought there was more of this is why she's nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Cruella, this is why she's nasty, but at the end of Cruella, she's redeemable. And then there's no redemption at all in 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah, it sets her up for the redemption arc and then completely ignores it. I feel like if you're going to go down that path, that has to be a secondary story. Let me bring up something that is going to be a little bit different from our normal...
Disco Zoo?
No, I'm not talking about Disco Zoo again.
Why not, Ryan?
Because...
we could talk about it again. I've only picked it 3 times.
Yeah. Can I just say that I still think that you need to experience more games than Disco Zoo. I tried to get you to play more games, and you know what? That ended up being 6 months of waiting for you to finish Monkey Island. Don't worry, I have plans. But no, I'm going to mix things up because I'm going to talk about a card game.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
This is Game Corner, so I'm going to talk about a game, but I'm going to not talk about a video game this week. I'm going to talk about a card game. And it's a very silly card game that I enjoy simply because I like the feeling of it. I like the aesthetic of it. And it's just a fun little game and very much a pick up and go kind of game. It plays at a speed that is pick up and go, but unfortunately the box is not a pick up and go. The game is called The Red Dragon Inn.
Okay.
And first of all, I'd like to say it's not the best game out there, but it's a fun game. The game is basically, it's an isometric card game where you are a band of adventurers who have just come back from your adventure, and you split up the gold evenly among your party. Unfortunately, there is this thing where you want all the gold.
Oh, greed.
Yeah, that's it. Greed.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does one get all the gold from their party, from their friends, from these people who they've adventured with and care about? Well, it's simple. You get them all completely drunk and take their money.
Mm-hmm.
So the game of Red Dragon Inn is a game of basically try to get all the money. So you are adventurers at the inn. You buy drinks for each other. You get your friends to drink those drinks, and you have a health gauge and a drunkenness gauge. And whenever the two meet, like whenever they reach the same value, the person will pass out. There are other ways to get the money. For example, there is a thief character who has the ability to just straight up steal or cheat at cards. But it's just a game where you are trying to either make your friends so hurt that they just fall unconscious, or so drunk that they just fall unconscious, or a mix of the two. It's a very silly isometric card game. So each player has a character's deck, and each character has a different set of cards and different things that they do. So you have your traditional archetypes, like you have your wizard, you have your healer, you have your mage, you have all these things, and they have different ways of dealing with the shenanigans that are going on, including such wonderful things like the thief character accidentally spilling his drink so he doesn't have to drink it, so he doesn't get as drunk.
Yeah.
So that's the base game. It's a very silly game. But one of the things that I like about this game is there have been many, many expansions to this. And each expansion has added things. Like, at one point, they added a boat. So, like, instead of at the inn, you're traveling on a boat or a ship. You're traveling on a ship, not a boat. But...
Mm-hmm. A larger boat?
A larger boat.
Mm-hmm.
A boat with style. But you can be going into a storm, and then a bunch of things will fall off the table. It will change the way that the game is played based on certain cards that are pulled. And so, yeah, like I said, it's a silly, silly game, but I thought, you know what? We do a lot of video games here. I thought I would talk about a simple card game that is just really nice and fun. But if you want a recommendation for a fantastic card game that is the world's hardest game to get a hold of, I will also recommend a game called Seventh Continent.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Have I talked about Seventh Continent before?
No, I don't think so. I think I've just heard of it. Oh, it was one of the games we talked about in the big long one, I think.
Oh, I'm still going to mention it again. Talking about cards made me remember it. But Seventh Continent is basically a game where you build the map as you go. So you have this giant set of cards, and you are actually using those cards to build the map. And based on what you find on that card, you can either go in certain directions, you can use certain resources that are hidden in the card. It's a lot of fun. It is best played as a single player card game.
Mm.
But it's basically you are on an adventure on the Seventh Continent trying to solve some sort of mystery or remove a curse, or depends on how you have set up, which expansions you've set up, and which storylines you end up stumbling into. So, yeah, Seventh Continent, fantastic game. Red Dragon Inn is just mean, dirty fun. I say mean dirty because here's the thing. You are playing that game with other human beings. So it means it's a lot of targeted attacks towards different people. Mm-hmm. So if you are not a person who likes games with a lot of take that kind of feel, this is probably not a game for you. I generally don't like those games, but this is such a silly game that I give this one a pass.
Yeah, I do remove the skips from the cards games when I play with my daughters.
Yeah, this is a game where you draw a card and it's like, pick one player to take one health away from.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can very easily turn into everybody piling on one person.
Wait a minute. In this image in Board Game Geek, they're playing Red Dragon Inn, but they're drinking Barks root beer.
Yes.
That sounds good. I haven't had Barks root beer in a long time over here in Japan.
Yeah, that's... The last time I had Barks was actually over the summer.
Oh.
When I went back to visit my parents, it's the fact that the theater near me has Barks root beer.
Hmm. They have A&W here in Japan. It's pretty good. You brought this to me, Ryan, which is very confusing to me.
What? Did I bring this to you?
I thought you bought this. Didn't you buy this?
I thought you brought this. Oh, I might have bought this one. I did buy this one.
I think you bought this one, which is pretty funny because we've had Kelpis in the past, and you don't like it.
I hate Kelpis, and yet I saw this Kelpis that just screamed, this needs to be on the podcast. Because it's a grape Kelpis.
And it's pretty neon grape, too.
It is like a lovely shade of lavender.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Usually when they put flavoring in Kelpis, it's not quite this rich in color. It's usually still fairly pale. But this is pretty colorful for a flavored Kelpis.
Mm-hmm. I'm worried about this for many reasons. Let's start with the fact that it's Kelpis.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's also include the fact that it is a neon purple.
Mm-hmm.
It is a neon purple Kelpis. There is no amount of things in this entire selection of parts of it that I'm going, yeah, this might be okay. Except for the fact that it is indeed 1% fruit juice.
Oh, yes. We're getting more healthy, I'm sure.
Yes. You know what? I'm just trying to avoid scurvy.
I think it'll be okay. I'm a decent fan of the grape flavor, and Kelpis passes for me as an okay thing.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, you think so?
No.
Alrighty. Let's give this a taste, huh?
Yep.
Oh, I do like that it's Kelpis water, so it's not soda.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I don't always write whether it's Kelpis water or soda, so I forget what some of the other ones were.
I don't remember.
Usually I think we get soda, so.
Ooh, that is a potent grape smell.
It is. Very strong grape smell.
Oh.
It's very strong on the grape flavor.
Oh, yeah.
Kelpis is a little bit of an afterthought in this one. I mean, I guess it's there in the sweetness. It's there in the sweetness, but the Kelpis is not a strong flavor.
All right. Here's going to be my approximation of this drink made of grape Laffy Taffy.
Yeah.
That's about how it tastes to me. It tastes like you are drinking a grape Laffy Taffy.
Very, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Super artificial grape flavor.
Mm-hmm. Heavily sweetened.
Heavily, heavily sweetened. Yeah. I'm not impressed.
I don't know. I don't think it's bad.
Do
you think it's not passing?
For me, yeah. You can believe whatever you want about it. But for me, yeah, it's not passing.
I don't think I have as negative a reaction to you in the grape flavoring area. And I definitely don't have as negative reaction as you in the Kelpis area.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty successful Kelpis mix. I don't remember how it compares to green apple Kelpis we had, but I'm going to put it down as a 6.
I give it a 4.
Hmm.
Yep, it's going to be a 4 for me.
That's pretty much where green apple you gave a 5 because I think that was a winning...
winning combo.
Yeah, for you particularly, right?
Yeah. But what can we say? It's Kelpis. Breaking into the passing range is pretty...
It's high for them if they can do it for you, right?
Yeah, it's a 4. No getting around that for me. It's a 4.
Yeah, I'm okay with the fake grape flavor.
I don't even think I'm going to finish this. I stopped about a fourth of the way down.
Nope, I will finish it.
You feel free to finish it. But let's talk about the Kitkats now.
Yes, the Kitkats. I think I brought these ones, right?
I think you did.
I found these in the drugstore in our area.
Mm-hmm.
These are cookie and cream Kitkats, which sound interesting. I have a little bit high hopes with these.
I do like cookies and cream ice cream, so I'm hopeful.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Especially after the drink.
The grape Kelpis. Well, they are white bespeckled, like you would expect with cookies and cream.
Yep, it looks like cookies and cream.
Let's see. I think it tastes like cookies and cream. It tastes a lot like cream, or a lot like sugar, I guess. I don't really taste the cookie part.
They're very small.
Just like the middle of an Oreo with a Kit Kat wafer in between.
I was going to say it tastes more like the McFlurry approximation of cookies and cream.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Oh, goodness, I don't remember what Mont Blanc tasted like.
I believe we phrased it as it's futsu.
Mm-mm-mm.
It was exceedingly normal. I think perhaps because my expectations were high, I'm feeling like a 5. Maybe a 6.
I was thinking 6 because the sweetness is kind of my kind of sweetness. Okay, is it more or less than the regular Kit Kat?
I'm going to give it a 5 because if that's our definition, more or less than a regular Kit Kat, I'm going to say it's perhaps on par with a normal Kit Kat, if not a little bit less.
Okay.
And the reason being is because there needs to be something happening here for the amount of sweetness I'm getting. Whereas this feels like almost a blast of sugar.
Yeah, because I'm missing the chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the chocolate of the cookies and cream. I might say 4, actually. I think you're talking me into a 4.
You were at a 6, though.
No, I was thinking more 5. Oh, well, I was thinking better than 5, but still not much better than 5.
I'm giving it a 5.
Now I think you're talking me down to 4. I think I'm going to go down to 4.
All right. Sounds like a plan. I like how I convinced you to go lower than I was.
Doesn't usually happen.
Yeah, the last time we had a 5 and a 4 was banana caramel.
I still got some of those left. I think I threw them away. I should have given them to you. They were at least 5 for you.
I believe this afternoon I made you an offer you couldn't refuse.
I think it was better. I think it was like, I got to think of things for this, though. What was my other suggestion that I had come up with yesterday, too?
You were saying times we were in the mafia?
Times we were in the mafia. That's what I was saying.
Or
our 2 favorite corn salads. That's the
2
best
favorite
part.
corn salads. Gotta love that corn salad. I love you, corn salad!
And we'll get to the corn salad part later.
We'll get to what we mean by corn salad later.
But we could do 2 times we pulled a prank.
Yes.
Although I asked my wife, it's like, what good pranks have I pulled? She's like, you're not a good prank puller. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not really a good prank puller.
Oh.
The problem is, I mean, and like you said too, I think we had talked about pranks at one point too. And you had said, they gotta be clean upable, they gotta not harm anybody. But I have pretty high standards like that too. So I am not really a good prank puller.
Yeah, I will say that most of the pranks that I pulled when I was younger, I think pretty much all of them are due in large part to great influences on my life. The troublemaker friends.
Yep. So I think my first one was, and I kind of pulled this off with a coworker at school. I won't name him this time. But we had ourselves our mail server on campus for a while. Well, we still do, but it's a lot less used now. But, with a mail server on campus, you can do all kinds of fun things like forge emails to people. So we sent a forged email to the head of school because he had just given this great all-staff talk about how we all needed to have SMART goals. And, the acronym SMART meaning something smart anyway, right? So, replicable, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, helps you get your goals done, right?
Short-term, measurable.
Yeah, measurable, right? Achievable.
Short-term, measurable, achievable. What was R?
I don't remember.
And T is time-based.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like all good things, right? Like just help you get your goals done.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we came up with another acronym that wasn't quite as polite.
Was it based on the word smart?
Yeah, based on the word smart, but, we use stupid for S and blah, 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 things like that, right? Made up our own meanings for the thing. And sent them along to the head of school and, forged it with some other email address. We forged it with an address that wasn't real, right? Like, he couldn't have responded to that and got...
Like vapid goals at...
Something like that, yeah. Some other address. He couldn't respond to it. So then he comes storming into the... It mustn't have been all staff. It must have been a student-related thing. Yeah, it must have been a student-related speech. Because then he came storming into the computer lab and started yelling at my TA, who is the guy in school that probably would have done it if I hadn't done it, or if I hadn't done it with my colleague, right? So, like, if a student were to have done it, it would have been him. Yes, I fully agree that it would have been him, because he would have had the knowledge and the smarts to pull the prank off. But no, me and the colleague did it. But I was sitting there listening while the head of school just rails on the kid. I'm thinking, I probably should be telling the head of school that it was me. But then after the head of school left, I talked to the kid and I said, Yeah, that was me. Sorry you got the blame for that. We let it sit for another 3 days before I fessed up to the head of school. But by the time I fessed up to the head of school, the kid had said he had told the head of school that it was me instead anyway. So I think the head of school then worked with the kid to try to get back at me.
Did they actually achieve anything?
Well, no, because now I get a mail from somebody I don't know, and I know who it's going to be. So, I mean, not really. But, yeah, so that was kind of funny. But I haven't done that since with our email address, although probably we could do some funny things with our mail server that we haven't done recently.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some good things we could do.
I'm sure everybody would love to get an email from Vapid Goals.
So anyway, yeah, not a very nasty prank, and I feel pretty bad for this. I probably should have said something right away. I mean, the student was my tech assistant. Well, I knew him well. I probably still should have stood up for him, but anyway, still, it was fun.
All right, so when I worked at camps, we occasionally liked to play pranks on each other. So one time, me and another of my friends were told by our bosses at the time, now, I know that people like to play pranks on each other during the summer, and know that that is okay as long as the kids are not here. So in our minds, we got the go-ahead. One of the weekends when the kids had left, we decided that we were going to do a bunch of pranks. And they were pretty simple. Things like there was this statue that was in our dining hall, and we grabbed it, carted it back to our boss's house, snuck in, and snuck it into their shower. And then we took their golf cart, because this was a summer camp, so everybody had golf carts, and we parked it in the center of the dining hall. And then we took all of their porch furniture and put it on their roof. And we also decided that because they knew that they had given the go-ahead, we said, okay, we'll admit who did it in a very simple way. When they woke up the next morning, all that lawn furniture was gone. So like their entire porch furniture, everything was gone. And it was on their roof. But also on their roof was me and my friends sitting in that lawn furniture on top of that roof, greeting them with a cup of coffee in our hands and saying hello and doing all that. Unfortunately for us, our boss at the time loved to not play pranks as much as do psychological warfare. So immediately, without missing a beat, said, "Oh, was this you guys who put the statue in the shower? Yeah, I didn't notice it, and I had been running the shower, and now that statue's ruined. We're going to have to garnish your wages."
Oh.
And she said this with a straight face. It took us about an hour to figure out that she had lied to us.
Yeah, because how? You can't melt a statue with water.
Well, it was a wooden statue. She
Yeah.
said it had warped or the paint had come off or some
I could believe that.
shenanigans. Yeah, something slightly more believable. So those were some of the simple ones that we did at that camp. I don't know how much I've told you, but I have worked at camps for a total of about 5 years, I think was the total by the time I finished working at camps. So I had a lot of little pranks that we did here and there, but that was the night where I tried to do as many as possible in one night. We basically tried to go full in and just find all of the small pranks that we could do all at one time. I can't remember the other ones because keep in mind this was when I was a wee lad. Yeah, that was one of the sillier ones, but simple.
All right, my other one is something that we did at school also, at our school. This was the day before, well, must have been 2 or 3 days before April Fool's. Me and my coworker, again, were thinking up things to do. And we have a few good ideas, but again, not many of them meet my threshold of we have to be able to walk this back or it can't really cause too much harm. But this one, well, I decided that, what we should do is change the theme of our school website. That would be fun, right? Change all the colors. So I sat down thinking about it, and I programmed away, and I was like, oh, this is actually not that hard. And I did a draft of it, and I got it ready, and I think I had it ready the night before on March 31, and the next day was an all-staff meeting, and I knew that the head of school, which is a different head of school than the previous prank, but the head of school was going to show something from our staff portal. And I was realizing, oh, this is going to come up. And then the theme that I had programmed at the time was the Sakura theme with the falling petals and everything. And I was like, oh, he's going to get so annoyed that those petals keep falling. And then I sat there thinking, I can't just put this up. I got to make a way where we could turn it off too. Because if he does it, yeah, he'll see it, but then he's got to be able to turn it off so that there's not petals falling when he's trying to talk about these important policies that he's telling all the staff. So then I spent that whole evening then programming a way to turn on and off the themes also. That is actually the very first theme we had on our site. And then now since then, I've made a Christmas theme. We've only got the 2 themes. Well, besides the default theme, the Christmas theme, and the Sakura theme. But
it's because you're not playing any pranks. That's how you develop new themes.
I know, I am not. So anyway, I do like the Sakura theme. It's quite fun. I think that's why it took me a few days to do, because there are falling petals, and I was trying to figure out how to do that without like rewriting our whole site to be able to support petals all the time. It's a bit distracting most of the time.
It can be, but I find it nice.
Pleasant.
It
was quite fun, that theme, actually. Actually, I do like the Christmas theme one, too. That one turned out better than I expected.
Yeah.
And I do know of a few people that just use it because they like the warmth of it. But it's coming up. It's going to turn on. I think it turns on December 1st now, automatically, for those who have the automatic theme picker chosen, which is most people because that's what the default is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, my pranks aren't that great, but I was definitely completely scared that the head of school would be like, what did you do to the portal? On the day he wanted to share some big important staff policies. Because I remember him talking about the policies he wanted to share, and I was thinking, oh my, I'm putting this theme out and he's going to want to do the portal. We got to figure out how to change it back. And then I think he didn't even use the staff portal. I think that's what even in the all-staff meeting, he didn't end up using it. And I was like, you didn't use it. Did you see the theme? He's like, yeah, I did, but I didn't need to use the portal. I was like, oh, okay, sure.
Oh. So I was thinking about this, and a lot of the pranks that I did would need so much context that, like, all the pranks that I'm left with are perhaps my more mundane ones. I mean, I've played pranks with people in games. I've played pranks with people in real life. I've done all these sort of things. And without understanding the person or the context or the history behind like some inside joke that led to this, it's hard to tell some of those stories. So instead, I'm going to talk about another more mundane one, unfortunately.
Okay.
Like, I've done silly things like when I first got here, me and one other person decided to back and forth just continuously fill each other's mailboxes with dinosaur toys to the point where we just ended up having this giant collection of dinosaur toys because we just kept adding more and more dinosaurs. There's a lot of like little silly ones. Then there was the time where me and a bunch of other people decided that we were going to, one of our coworkers drove this tiny little postage stamp of a car. And so we got the 7 of us together and decided to grab the car and move it behind the building because, you know, there were 7 of us and it was a tiny, tiny light car. So you just lift and move. And it was not a big building. So you just whoop, right around the back. And then when they come out, they start freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was we saran wrapped an entire building shut.
Oh, wow.
So the only way they could get out was, I think there was one door that the saran wrap wasn't tight enough on. And so they just out. But yeah, I mean, I did a lot of little pranks here and there, but I feel like most of the pranks that I pulled, none of them were really ever grand in scale. Nothing like the TV show that we watched for this episode.
Right. Yeah, me neither. Nope, I am not that kind of person.
Mostly because I have a strange fear of not wanting to completely destroy a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the people around me, I put a big hard wall on myself because I find it'd be very easy for me to cross a line. I tend to like to escalate very quickly. And so I usually put up a very big wall. Nate, you had me watch a TV series.
I did. I had you watch a TV series.
A 30-hour extravaganza.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Give or take.
Give or take a few hours here or there. I had you watch Vincenzo, which, like most Korean TV shows, is a one-season shot.
Mm-hmm.
But this one-season shot is 20 episodes of about an hour and a half, well, hour 15-ish, hour 20-ish each.
It fluxed between an hour and 20, and a few episodes hit the hour 30.
Yeah, it's longer ones.
Yeah. Like the last episode.
I probably watched it over the course of a month, so, not necessarily giving you the same shot.
I watched it over the course of about 2 weeks.
you know. So, yeah, it's a Korean TV show, so none of us speak Korean natively or even after the fact, so we're both reading subtitles the whole time. I understood a little bit of the Korean over top of the subtitles, but not too much more.
I understood. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yes, you should watch it because I think it's great.
So you had me watch it, and I have a lot of things I'd like to say about it because, spoiler alert, I also thought it was great.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But before we get into it, we should probably do our obligatory spoiler warning.
Yes.
And say, hey, if you haven't watched it yet, go and watch it because we are going to spoil a lot of things. And this series escalates quickly.
It just keeps going and going, right?
It just keeps going and going. And I want to tell you that if you haven't watched it, this is one where I know there are many people out there who are like, oh, yeah, I'll listen to what they say. And if I like what they say, I might watch it. No, go and watch it. It is great.
Mm-hmm.
This one goes especially out to you, Terrence.
We'll leave that in the one he downloads. No, seriously, pause now. Come back. We will wait. This will still be in your queue. You can push this to the bottom of your podcast queue. Come back and listen to this later. Go watch the show and come back.
Yeah, it's only going to be about a 30-hour wait between right now and when you get to finish this podcast.
If you're going to choose between Squid Game or this one, I would say at least watch this one. I haven't seen Squid Game, but Squid Game seems a bit dark. This show gets dark in a handful of places.
Oh, it gets dark. It gets very dark.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later.
But most of it is not dark.
But yes, so before we go any further, I should probably give a bit of a kind of a summary. So as this is a 30-hour extravaganza, give or take, rather than a summary of the whole plot, I thought I would give kind of a summary of the premise and what happens in the first episode. So, Vincenzo is the story of Vincenzo Cassano, a consigliere to a Italian mafia family of Korean descent. He was given up for adoption at a young age and adopted by an Italian family, which later is revealed that that family unfortunately passed away due to less than spectacular circumstances, and afterwards he joined the mafia. Following the death of the head of his mafia family, he ends up leaving Italy when the successor to that mafia family decides to try to have him killed. And when this happens, he decides to return to Korea. When he returns, he does so he can gain some gold that he helped hide a few years back. And things don't exactly go as planned because in that building where he has hidden the gold, there's a group of citizens living there and they refuse to leave. And also there's a company, a large corporation called Babel, also is attempting to buy out that land. Now, originally there are several people who are standing in his way, including the lawyer who was representing the residents, and he didn't want the people to lose their homes, to lose their land. But unfortunately, the landlord, whose name was on the deed, his family is kidnapped and forced to sell the deed to Babel. Right after that, some thugs come to kick the people out. And Vincenzo ends the very first episode by stepping up, defending the people, kicking the thugs out, mostly by holding the leader of the thugs out a window, trying to protect this building, and mostly the gold. But later, he also decides to protect the people therein. That's how episode 1 goes, but quite frankly, the majority of this story is centered around how Vincenzo is trying to get that gold, and from there, things escalate quickly. So here's the thing. Because it is an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and a half each episode, you're basically watching a mini movie every single episode.
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
And because it is a mini movie, there is usually at least 2 or 3 major things that happen in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it escalates quickly. So that first episode, you're just introduced to all these characters, but the new boss of the mafia family he's a part of tries to kill him in like the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up going to Korea and meeting all these people and trying to figure out, okay, how can I get to this gold, which unfortunately he couldn't get to because there were people there, including 2 monks who lived basically right on top of the safe.
But actually, you're skipping over one thing too, which I found interesting. And, according to his personality, I'm surprised dropped off really quickly, even in the first episode, right? In the first episode, he gets mugged, like, right away.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
But what's silly is it never gets followed up, right? But knowing Vincenzo by the end of the movie, you're like, why did he not follow that up?
He didn't follow that up. He did learn from it.
Yeah.
There was a very specific thing that he takes from it later.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the first episode also has Vincenzo get mugged. He's offered a ride to get to where he needs to be. And as he does so, he takes a drink of water from the taxi service, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's a fake black car, right? I mean, it's
a fake black car. Anyway, so he takes a drink from this bottled water, and unfortunately the bottled water had been drugged. And when he wakes up, he is missing all of his money.
Mm-hmm.
And his watch. And all of the people in the building don't trust him because he seems to have just showed up with the landlord. And so they're like, oh, this is just a guy who's gonna sell us out. And so you remember how the dry cleaner ruined his suit in the first episode?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And all these people were refusing to feed him, and everybody didn't trust him, and all these different things. And that all just happens in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go too far into the weeds here, I'd like to say it's a fantastic series. I really liked it.
Isn't it good?
It is very good. It was funny, but it got very serious at times, very dark. I think the things that made me the most uncomfortable was actually in the last 2 episodes of this entire season.
Yeah, where it gets super dark.
It got super dark.
No, I agree. I mean, I think we can talk about this more later, but it goes to show that Vincenzo's really not a hero. He's not a hero.
No, and he talks constantly about the fact that he is a villain.
Right.
He defines himself as a villain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, he has a sense of justice.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not necessarily what the police would use as justice, right?
No, it's more of a code than justice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that really stuck out to me as kind of a showing his character right at the beginning was when he talked to Paolo, the new boss of his family, why he wouldn't respect him. It was the fact that he said, I can't respect you because you break the rules. Our rules are you don't hurt women, you don't hurt children, you don't get them involved.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you have. And so to me, that very statement was like, oh, he has some lines he doesn't cross. Which, by the way, I did like that they had him answer that line crossing at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
When Choi, I think that was her name.
Oh, yeah, their former prosecutor.
The prosecutor. Mm-hmm. So one of the things in the series is this female prosecutor who does all sorts of horrible, horrible things to Vincenzo, to all the people he cares about. At the very end, pulls out a line like, "You wouldn't hurt a woman, would you?" And he just turns and goes, "You're not a woman to me. At this point, you're a monster." And then proceeds to do something very horrible, i.e. burn her alive.
Yeah, she gets burned alive, right?
Yeah, she gets burned alive while he's also removed all her toenails so she can't run away.
Yeah. And the other guy gets drilled to death, which is pretty horrible too.
Oh, yeah. And not just drilled to death. He gets drilled to death slowly.
So that he can be eaten by the the other vermin around too at the same time. Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty dark.
So if you haven't guessed, the last 2 episodes involve him succeeding to get everything that he wants, but in doing so, he basically ends up torturing several people who had wronged him in very severe ways throughout the season, including, I think the worst one, the one that I saw coming from the get-go, was the death of his mother.
Yeah.
So Vincenzo was given up to adoption pretty early. And when he comes back to Korea, he does meet with his mother again, not admitting that he is the son that she gave up.
It does seem like even back then, though, they both knew at that time.
Oh, they both knew. They both knew, and none of them would admit it.
Right.
But they met again. They grew closer. They had a lot of really beautiful heart-to-heart conversations. And as that relationship is building up, you know something bad is going to happen with that mother.
Well, and you're kind of led to believe that she might actually die, right? I mean, that it's not something that would be brought upon, but then, of course, it is something that was brought upon by the bad guys.
Because she had terminal cancer.
So, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, you're thinking that she'll just die. But no, it's she gets murdered.
Yeah. And when you murder Vincenzo's mother, it is perhaps not the safest of decisions for you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that surprises me, I don't know, I keep saying this to my wife, and it's like, but at the same time, it's like, it's easy for us because we look at this show that's named after this person and thinking this guy is going to, not the hero, but you're like, this guy is going to be the
protagonist.
The protagonist of the story, right? So I look at all these people that are trying to go up against him, right? That plot the murder of his mother, that plot all these things against him, and I keep thinking, why do you think that would work? But again, they're not realizing that he's the protagonist of a show, right? So,
well,
and they're also narcissistic, thinking that they can. I mean, both of them, Choi and Han-suk, think that they can beat him, which they can't. And even their past losses don't bring them to think that they can, I guess, right? They both think that, oh, he beat me that time, but I'll get him next time. Of course, they never get him next time.
There were a few moments where they might have gained an inch and then suddenly found out that, yes, while I won that one battle, it causes them to lose the next, 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like when they do end up getting the bank loan from that bank, which is also a hilarious episode.
Yes. Teho.
Okay, so let me break in here with something. There are some pretty hilarious callbacks in this show. Teho, so the main actor of Vincenzo is played by Sung Joong-gi, and he actually plays a character called Teho in a movie called Space Sweepers. So they are referencing that movie in this show.
Oh, that makes some sense.
I mean, it makes some sense, but and to me, the first thing that I noticed was like, okay, so the first few episodes, and this is what threw me too, the first few episodes, the main lawyer is fighting against something called RDU 90.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, they used RDU 90. Do you know what RDU 90 is?
No.
RDU 90 is the name of the drug that was developed that the movie The Fugitive is based on.
Oh.
The drug that they wanted him to sign off on, and he didn't want to sign off on it, so they murder his wife and pin it on him, and then he's the fugitive. That drug is RDU-90.
I forgot about that.
So, like, in this show, there are, like, callbacks to other things. Because I was like, no way, RDU-90?
Oh, man, it's been so long since I've seen The Fugitive.
I know, it's been a long time since I've seen The Fugitive too, but there are pretty, like, every once in a while, there's like, wait, that's a callback to something else.
So what's the B a callback to?
I don't know, but that's pretty funny. So there was one or two other callbacks I remember too, but I forget now. But that I saw in the show. But I was like, oh, that's a callback to something else. But anyway, so Teho is one of them, which is pretty hilarious. He likes single syllable names. Oh, okay, we'll go with Teho. Sorry. Do you realize that the actor Vincenzo never actually went to Italy to do any of those shots?
Oh,
because this was filmed during COVID times. It's completely CG. All of that stuff. The house, the vineyard, even the time where he's talking to Paolo in that area, it's all CG.
Oh my gosh.
All of it. Him and Paolo were never even in the same room together. In that early scene when he was supposed to be talking to him in that fancy house thing.
I will say that it is interesting that a few things you could tell, like, this was written with COVID in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Though no one in the show was actually wearing masks.
Yeah.
The thing that was amazing to me, the one thing that I kept asking myself is, so why are all these people following the leader of Babel?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Why do they accept him as the leader kind of thing?
Well, not just that. So, first of all, why do they accept him as a leader? But also, here's the thing. His personality is shown to be basically a sociopath. Mm-hmm. Like in the TV show, they specifically say that he was diagnosed as a sociopath.
Because he injures his fellow classmates in school, right?
Well, he murdered his fellow classmates.
That's right, murdered, yes. Mm-hmm.
He murdered his fellow classmates. He murdered his father eventually. He is a straight up murderer. So that's the first thing. What about him makes all of these like established people go, yeah, no, I'm going to follow this guy?
I think it's money only.
Yeah, because originally I thought they were going to go for like him being more of like a really thorough planner, Machiavellian kind of like really smart and really like thorough and doing things like having a Xanatos gambit. It's a trope where no matter what happens, whether they win or lose, the end result is that they win. Mm. It's actually named after one of the main villains, kind of early villain who turns into a ally in the TV series Gargoyles. That was the kind of character who I thought he was going to be, because then it presents somebody who can actually fight against Vincenzo, but he ended up not being that way.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He ends up being a little bit smarter than his brother.
But not much.
But not much. Only just more confident, right? I mean, really, that's the only difference, is that he's just more confident than his brother, still makes mistakes.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a lot of sly planning going for him. Well, he kind of does at the beginning, but that only felt like he was meant to be this really smart kind of, I'm playing the puppet master kind of character, but immediately that fell apart.
I think in reality, I mean, I ended up liking his brother better, Hanzo.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, he's foolish, but still. Oh, actually, let's go back to Hansaka a second.
Yeah.
He is actually a singer in a boys band, or he was a singer in the boys band, but he has converted to become an actor. And, you know, he didn't do too bad. I did like the acting of Hanzo a little better, maybe, but Hansuk didn't do too bad. He just plays angry a lot, right?
Yeah, I think the thing that he did the
naive guy.
When he was the naive guy at the beginning, I thought that was going to be a great character, like basically a comic relief kind of character. And I was really looking forward to the dynamics of that.
And then they turn it on you.
Yeah.
Although the comic relief of Nam, the paralegal.
Oh, yes.
He is great, isn't he?
He is great.
I love the whole. I mean, okay, let's talk about the product placement coffee in a little bit. But I love it. I love it when Hanzo walks in with the beans, right? And then he goes, "Yeah, we love a coffee machine." And then later he goes, "Can I have some coffee? What'd you do with my beans? I sold them on the internet." I love it.
or when they're first discussing like what they're gonna do and what sort of like all these plans they're having just between Vincenzo and
Hong Chaeyoung. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm going to be honest, I cannot try to pronounce these names.
That's okay. That's okay. Most of them we can go based on their job.
Their job, yeah.
Especially when we get into talking about the people who live in the plaza.
Yes. So what I was trying to say is when Vincenzo and the female lawyer that he is working with are talking about one of their plans, and suddenly Nam just sits straight up, having apparently slept there all day. And is like, oh, let me add my 2 cents into this. Also, I know how to make fake blood and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, can I just say, it is great how everybody in the building is like abnormally skilled at one thing.
Yeah. They all apparently are good fighters, right? They all have some kind of fighting skill. Some kind of.
In one of the later episodes where it does a close-up on each person to show like their history, it made me laugh so much because it was like world-class Olympic wrestler, world-class Olympic weightlifter, world-class boxer. And I'm just like, what? Wait, what? Why are all these world-class people in this tiny little dinky apartment?
And the guy who's good with scissors. Anyway.
And the guy who's good with scissors. And the former street fighter turned dance instructor. And you're just like, what?
One thing that did confuse me at the beginning, this is, like you're saying, this is an ensemble show. I mean, there are 3 or 4 main characters, and then there's a supporting ensemble, I guess you would say. It's not an ensemble of main actors, it's a supporting ensemble, right? But I did get very confused at On, the secret agent, or the special agent. At first, I was confused with him with the guy that Vincenzo was blackmailing to delay the demolishing of the building, right?
Oh.
Who later turns up as the singer, as the Korean singer with the sparkles, which is pretty funny also. But I was confused about which guy was which for a little while. I mean, later that'll get sorted out, but On is pretty hilarious too, the special agent guy. He's pretty funny.
So back to corn salad.
Corn salad, yes, great. Because it really does sound similar in Korean. Consigliere and corn salad. In Korean, it's not that far off. Much closer than in English. Consigliere and corn salad.
What makes me laugh is the fact that, like, when they first find out, the entire building is just like, we love you, corn salad. Can I just say, I was not surprised when the character who they were like, oh, he might die, didn't. I was not surprised that he didn't die.
Yeah, there were a lot of cliffhangers. I remember counting toward the end, I was like, wait a minute. But 3 out of the past 5 episodes have ended with a gun at Vincenzo's head. Wait a minute here. You can't hang us on this cliff this many times.
Well, it's the fact that, here's the thing that I realized about this show. Every single episode had to be more dynamic, have something bigger than the last episode. And when you start the series by ending episode 1 with Vincenzo hanging a guy by a tape measure by his wrist out a window, it means that escalation is going to be quick. And so I felt like by the end of the series, the only thing they had left to do, the only space they could go beyond that would be to end every episode with him jumping a shark.
It does it pretty... I mean, I think the only one that really bothered me was the one where he gets saved by Inzaghi.
Whoa. You cannot talk bad about him being saved by Inzaghi.
No, I mean, bothered is a strong word. I just think it's like, wait a minute. You're suspending my disbelief a little bit too far here.
Whoa. The pigeons have the power.
They have their own mafia. The pigeons have their own mafia led by Inzaghi. Anyway, I mean, actually, I was a little bit worried when he got shot in the hockey rink. And I was like, oh my goodness, how are they going to explain?
I was not shocked at all. What my mind went to is he would not allow himself to get shot like that.
Exactly.
So I had pretty quickly figured out, oh, this is a setup.
Yep. So then it's just Hanzo telling the story of what's happened in there. It's not really him getting shot. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They walked that one back pretty well. I liked that one walking back better than others.
I thought that was good. Also, let me just say, Pigeon Mafia is called the Good Feathers.
The Good Feathers. Oh, okay. Sorry. There were a few other good cameos in this, too. Isn't it John Krasinski playing the American investor?
Is it now?
I don't know. I was wondering who that was. It might not be. Maybe it was just somebody else. but it did kind of seem like it was John Krasinski. It's not listed anywhere that I could find. But at one point, they do call that American Investor, and I thought it was John Krasinski. There are some other cameos in here, too. So the guy that plays Han Suk was a member of a boys band named 2PM, and some of the other members of 2PM show up as well. Oh, they're in one of the dramas that Han Suk is watching. Oh, remember at the meeting where they're auctioning off the floors of the tower, which was a hilarious meeting, by the way. It's like, this is just a farce.
The problem is there's so many things that we'll probably want to talk about.
Yeah, I know. Well, even the meeting where they're all locked in the room, that's a pretty funny meeting too. Anyway, but still, remember when he beats his heart with his hand? Yeah. In that meeting? That is one of the dances that 2PM does. Like, that's why that's funny too. It's like, I forget the real song because I'm not too much into the K-pop. But anyway, he beats his heart like that in the song that he dances with from a while ago. So that's the backstory on that one. I know enough of it to recognize it, but I don't remember the words of that song. Yes, there were some other fun cameos. I guess if you follow more Korean, there are a lot more cameos. I don't recognize all the actors, but apparently there was a whole bunch of other actor cameos that my wife knew some of them. I didn't know many of them. But yeah, other funny things that happened. The shaman. We haven't gotten to talk about the shaman yet. That's when they're all picking Vincenzo. I even love it when they pick Vincenzo out of the pot and they all have different names for Vincenzo. None of them are using the same name. And then he gets chosen to be the shaman.
So just to clarify, what happens in this episode is they tell the shaman to send this guy who they're trying to trick over to them, and they're trying to decide who is going to personate a shaman.
And of course it's going to be Vincenzo. Like, why would they even have a meeting to decide this?
And so everybody puts a name in the bucket, and every name that comes out is some variation of corn salad.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Vincenzo, or
Casano,
or my Consigliere.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty lit. And then, of course, the last one is the one that Vincenzo put in, which is somebody else. But everybody else voted for Vincenzo.
By the way, I still laugh at the fact that when they were doing the glimpses into everybody's backstory when they're doing the fight, I still laugh that the one person who they didn't show their history but their present was on, because it showed that he was the president of Vincenzo's fan club.
Yep.
Rather than have it talk about the fact that he's a secret agent or do any of this, no, shows that he's president of the fan club.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the only English person I can find on IMDb is somebody who was listed as George Anderson.
Oh, right, because he's the guy that they took the spot for to go visit the art museum.
Yeah.
That's that guy, which is also pretty funny. The artwork, nothing. Anyway. Yeah, there's some good stuff in here.
That's the thing is, remember, usually when we discuss a TV show, you have me talk about one episode. Nope, you're having me talk about all 20 of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we could have done this one at a time, but I think it's probably better if we do the whole series.
Well, that's the problem is if we did it one at a time, it would be like...
It would drag on.
Not only would it drag on, but it would be about 6 years before we finish this.
Yeah, I did laugh every once in a while at the convenience of everything. Yeah, the girl who programmed the lock in the safe happens to be living in this area. Happens to be. But of course... My wife keeps going, Nate, it's a drama. Let it go. And I'm like, yeah, it's a drama. Just let it go.
Well, there are certain things that I was like, yeah. I kept getting hung up on the fact of why is everybody actually like cowering in front of this, 20, 30 something year old kid with a hockey stick? Because that's how he presents himself most of the time. Like he beats people up with a hockey stick.
Mm-hmm. I think in Korea more businesses are handed down than they are in America. Hereditary ownership of businesses. That doesn't really happen in America as much as it used to anyway. It did happen in the past, but not as much as it used to. And I think that's more prevalent in Korea. I'm not saying it's everywhere, but it's definitely more prevalent in Korea than it is in America right now. At least that's the feeling I got from my wife when I asked her about that too. So because his father was the mogul.
Yeah.
And earned all the money. Then it got passed down to his sons, and then so his older son is the bigger heir, so blah, blah, blah. So he came back and claimed it. That's a little bit more of that reasoning, but yeah, that's not something we know culturally as much as, I guess, in Korea. There's more weight in Korea than it is in America anyway. I think one of the things, too, that disappointed me was I kind of expected the gold to get shared amongst the people from the plaza in the end.
It kind of did.
Not equally, but...
Nah, not equally.
I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be equal, but I kind of expected some of them to get some of the gold. But I don't... Only the piano teacher got the gold, right? I don't think anybody else did.
I don't...
Besides Hong Chai-young.
Yeah, the monks might have gotten a bit, but that's because they were involved in the
shuffling of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had to go out every day to beg for money. They were certainly not moving gold. No. They were begging for money.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I expected that, but on the other hand, I feel like Vincenzo probably, I mean, given how much he basically threw money at them constantly, he took care of them.
Yeah. They're going to be taken care of, right. They're not going to get the gold in hand, but they'll be taken care of.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the guillotine file? To me, I'm like, there's no way this could be locked in a safe and still be up to date by the time they open up the safe.
Oh, yeah.
That was the problem I had with it.
It's also the question of how long between the safe and it being unlocked was it? Because my impression was it was only like 2 years.
2? I guess it could have been that short. I think I was thinking more like 5 to 10.
Yeah, because think about how old Vincenzo seemed when he was proposing the thing.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that it was like maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, actually, so part of the thing you were saying, why does everybody fall for Hansuk's ploys?
Well, not just that, it's that they kowtow to him.
Yeah, because even the other prosecutor guy.
Which one?
Prosecutor Jung, right? The one that kowtows at the art museum, right? That like you think he's on their side, and then switches over at the art museum.
Yep.
And betrays at the art museum, right? That one I was like, why does he do it? But again, I guess it's power. I guess he wanted the power that he believed Hansuk could get for him.
Mm-hmm. And he took a short trip for that.
Mm-hmm. I really don't believe Korea is this corrupt as this was portrayed. At least I certainly hope it isn't.
Don't you think that all government... No, just kidding. I'm not going to be that cynical. Not tonight.
Ooh, I did love the fake out.
Which one?
I know which one.
They did a lot.
In the tunnel where it's like, oh, Vincenzo's going to learn that Hansuk is the guy, is the CEO, right? Like, oh, he's calling... But, it doesn't quite put it together. I was kind of hoping that he would have put it together a little bit sooner, that Vincenzo would have.
Yeah.
But only because we, the audience, know already. So I was kind of just hoping we'd see him pick up on clues or something and then put it together. But
yeah, I was actually anticipating that when he realized that the person wasn't going to pick up on the other end, he was going to put 2 and 2 together with the phone that's in this guy's pocket is ringing whenever I call.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought he was going to call one more time and then notice that, but didn't happen.
Or think that if I'm calling somebody, the only person that wouldn't have picked up is somebody who's in my vicinity, right? Or anyway, the boss would have been waiting for the call, so he would have picked up right away, waiting to hear that the Vincenzo was dead.
Yep.
Anyway.
Oh, we didn't talk about product placement.
Yeah, what did you think about all the product placement? All of the, this gum is delicious, isn't it?
Or, I can't start a day without this.
Isn't it great? It's just so obvious. It's just hilarious because it's so obvious.
So,
product placement.
Yeah, they would give this really close-up shot of the package of coffee-flavored gum or instant coffee and get a really close shot on the label.
Which is pretty great because he's Italian, right? And he's like, no. You can't have instant coffee. He's like, what's instant coffee, right? But of course, by the end of the show, he's swung around to instant coffee.
Like he's packing his bag and has like a double handful of this instant coffee sticks. No.
It's just a funny character moment.
It's a funny character moment, but I also think it's completely unbelievable.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. An Italian drinking instant coffee? Nope.
Yeah, no self-respecting coffee lover would choose to degrade themselves to being an instant coffee lover.
It's pretty funny, all the product placement. It was in the other Korean drama I watched recently too, the same coffee gum too. It's pretty funny.
I will say that I definitely have been intrigued by the coffee gum.
Too bad they don't have it here, huh, in Japan.
Yeah, where's my Korean coffee gum?
Yeah, if I find it in an import store, I'll buy some for you. One of the other funny things, though, I don't think this is product placement as much as just it's a show shot in Korea, so everybody has Samsung phones, and everybody has the newest Samsung phones. Because every show in America has iPhones, right? I mean, mostly.
Well, it depends. All the good guys will have iPhones.
I know, all the good guys have iPhones, all the bad guys don't. But that's not a problem for Samsung. Everybody has Samsung phones in this show. In Vincenzo, it didn't stand out as much as the show I just watched, where everybody is not quite rich, but everybody has the brand newest Samsung phones. In fact, the Galaxy Fold had come out during that filming of that show, and then they're like, look at this phone, it unfolds. And I was like, yeah, that person couldn't have afforded that phone. That's a $2,000 phone. I don't think so. Of course, the Samsung Galaxy Fold is a nice phone, but...
Yeah, well, you say that they wouldn't be able to afford that phone, but I've been around people who will buy the newest phone and yet barely be able to pay for rent.
Yeah.
So, is it that unbelievable?
Well, not only was the character poor, but the character wasn't necessarily tech savvy. I don't think that would have fallen in character. But anyway, still.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, hey, Samsung phones are pretty nice. Last thing I want to say, I mean, there's a lot of good things to like about this, but like we said earlier on, I think it's a great mix of genres. Like, I love how it really spans the gambit, right? I mean, you've got the humor, you've got the serious, you've got the kung fu action fighting in the middle, complete with cartoon animations. You've got, it so spans the gamut of entertainment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, I just love the whole thing. In fact, one of the things I really like is you can actually download the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And I have listened to the soundtrack every once in a while now, too. I have it in my rotation of instrumental music that I listen to when I want to concentrate or things like that. So that is one of the things that plays. I do enjoy that. It is a pretty great soundtrack. So much so that, actually, me and my wife have watched another Korean drama in the meanwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not as good as Vincenzo. But that one, I was like, oh, this soundtrack stinks. I really like Vincenzo's soundtrack much better. So yeah, I didn't put any of that TV show soundtrack in my music library. So yeah, Vincenzo, it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it. There's just so much that happens that I wish I had more time to talk about it. But I think this episode's already going to end up being a long one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please go watch it. It was very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the romance, it's got the drama, it's got action.
It's got romance, it's got drama, it's got comedy, it's got crime.
It's got mystery.
It's got trial sequences.
It really does span a whole gambit of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was your introduction to Korean drama.
Oh, I've actually watched Korean drama before.
Okay.
This was not my introduction, but this was definitely the best one I've watched.
Well, and one of the things that Korean drama has for it is, they plan for only really one season.
Yeah.
Everything pretty much gets tied off. Not always in a complete bow, but still, things get solved. In some ways, American dramas, they're like, oh, we'll just put a little more cliffhanger in there so that we can have another season, and then they get canceled, and you're like, oh, come on, guys.
Well, that's the thing is I was thinking about that, and there's nowhere else for this to go unless they take some of the characters and do antics with them in Malta.
Yep.
Which, while I don't think I would watch 20 episodes of that, because I think unless there was some major event,
there has to be some other hook, some other reason why.
Yeah,
in there.
I think it'd be fun to have like an episode of that where everybody comes to visit Malta.
They need a Christmas special.
Wookiee Life Day.
The other Korean drama I watched with my wife, everything gets tied off there too, right? Like every storyline gets tied off, which is kind of nice. I mean, and I love how there's no ads except for all the coffee product placement.
The last thing I'd like to say is ripping out fingernails is ow. Just ow.
Yeah. I don't think I could have done it, that's for sure.
Oh, I definitely couldn't have done it. I also, the moment that he even implies that he's going to do that, I would tell him everything. What do you want to know? When I was a wee lad, I was raised in the great environs of Minnesota and then Illinois, and then I would just start listing off my entire life story, whatever he wanted to know.
It gets pretty dark. Even the fact that he could think of these punishments is pretty rough.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, he's part of the mafia.
Yeah.
I mean, he did say that the drill one, he learned it from other mafia members.
Yeah.
I believe he specifically said the Russian mafia.
Everybody go watch it. It's excellent.
Yeah, true. So next time we decide to break from the pattern.
We're going to do something special.
Our next time will be our episode 50. So we thought we would invite as many of our previous guests as we could potentially grab.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to have a community, I will say a little community party involving one of our favorite movies of all time, The Princess Bride.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be inconceivable.
Oh, already?
Sorry.
But some of us will have read the book. Some of us will have watched the movie only. I've already read the book once. I'm going to be rereading it for this episode.
Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm.
And just looking forward to hanging out with a bunch of people I like and talking about, how great this movie is and how that's not a bluff.
No more rhymes now. I mean it.
Anybody got a peanut?
All right. We got it. You're supposed to say, I do not think it means what you think it means.
No, that was earlier when you said inconceivable.
Yeah, from inconceivable. That's what I mean. You're supposed to say that.
I was supposed to. I didn't live up to your expectations. So, we do hope that you found something nice about Vincenzo and this hill that we were willing to die on. And we appreciate all of our listeners coming along with us on this journey. And if you ever thought to yourself, hey, I really like these guys and I wish I could do something to support them. Well, know that you can. Visit myhilltodieon.com/members for more details. In addition, Nate and I have discussed, and every several episodes, we decided that we were going to add a listener choice for our media of the week. So we would like to also encourage people who would like to suggest potential content, potential media that we should be involved in, to check out our members page, as you can suggest media and suggest topics for us through that method as well. But know that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit at subreddit myhilltodieon, or by contacting us through Twitter at myhilltodieon, or by reaching us by email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, say it with me now, folks, My Hill to Die On.
I'm going to give it a try.
What are you giving a try?
I've been working on this all day. Well, not all day, but a lot of today.
Oh, no.
We'll now export overall grades.
You're too nice.
I do what I can. What's your Bible class called?
Which one? The one that's done or the one that's running right now?
The one that's done.
That would have been World Religions.
There it is. Export. Are you sure you want to allow downloads? Yes, please.
No.
Oh, you're too generous.
What, I gave a lot of A's? Most of them were A's.
1 C+.
Yeah, I know. They didn't turn in homework.
She must have been trying hard.
Yeah. You know me, I do not grade hard, and when a lot of my things are reflect on this thing, I'm not going to grade too harshly on their reflection. Like, what am I going to do? Say you didn't reflect well enough? Well, I mean, yeah, some of them, yes.
Oh, it's such a nice export. So you'll have to listen through to see if I picked a good point in the 2 songs you picked. Tell me what you think. You know what? I didn't listen to the whole mono song. I did skip around a bit to see where the good parts were.
You mean you didn't listen to the whole, 16-minute long song?
Well, it happens to only be 12, but still, no. I didn't
12.
listen to the whole song. I found a part that, so the beginning had a certain sound and the end had a certain sound.
Mm.
Well, I mean, it kind of builds to a sound, I think, it seems like. And then it goes back down and then builds again. So there was a part in the song earlier on, it had the beginning sound and then built to the building sound. So I used that part.
Yep. Mono does have a lot of build-up, breakdown, build-up, breakdown. Mm-hmm. It has a flow.
So I used one of the middle-ish parts where it starts low and then builds and then comes to a building part and then I fade out. So anyway, Tell me what you think.
All right. I will when you send it my way.
But it's a little bit weird to see Peter running through the forest and not being afraid of dying, since it's the same actor.
Oh.
I guess we're not going to talk about Hunger Games ever on this podcast.
It's sure not a hill I'm willing to die on.
Nope.
Just a little peek behind the curtain on the game front was the fact that all the games that I've been playing lately have been mostly games that I've already mentioned on previous episodes. Because I decided to go back and play a bunch of games or try to finish a bunch of different games that I... Wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
I never talked about that game.
Well, you can put it for next time.
Yeah, okay.
I think I got these in the summer, but that feels like forever ago.
What was summer? It's November now.
I know. Really, though, Japan changed from warm to cold in a week.
Yeah. And not that long ago either.
Nope. Oh, goodness, I don't remember what Mont Blanc tasted like.
I believe we phrased it as it's futsu. It was exceedingly normal.
Sorry. On the Mr. Peabody and Sherman that my kids have been watching recently.
Yep.
The guy goes, the narrator goes, and the French were exceedingly poor. And it zooms in on one of the French peasants and he goes, I am exceedingly poor. Sorry. So when you say exceedingly, it just reminds me of that. Sorry.
Nothing to apologize for.
Do I look like I have bread? No, I am exceedingly poor. Or something like that.
Should I go first or would you like to?
Let me go first because yours are going to be better, so I'll tell mine and then we'll get to your fun ones.
What?
That's one of the ones I was going to tell. I did replace all the keys on somebody's keyboard with only one letter. Well, I mean, the keyboard looked the same, but anytime you typed on it, you only got one letter. No matter what key you pushed, you got, I forget what letter it was, but anyway, you only get one letter. That was a good one.
Yeah, when I suggested pranks, I was like, oh yeah, I have all these ones, and now I'm only loosely remembering all of them. See, this is the problem. My brain is not what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting old. And also, there's a company, a large corporation called Babbel, Babbel.
Babbel, I think.
Babbel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was suddenly like, Babbel.
I think it's Babbel. Well, because in Korean it's Babel.
Babel.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Anyway, there's so many so obvious things in this show.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anyway, did you ever see Gargoyles?
No, I haven't. No, that's the one that followed the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right?
No. That's not what it. Here, let me see if I can't it up. It was a Disney series, if I remember right.
I thought, isn't it the Gargoyles from Hunchback of Notre Dame?
No. Different series. It was a 90s TV show.
Live action or animation?
Animation.
Yeah, 3 different gargoyles with flat bottoms, right?
Nope. Different show.
I see the show. No, I've never seen the show. Did you know that Gargoyles has Jonathan Frakes and Raina Sirtis in it?
Yes, I did.
Did not know that. Anyway.
I might have you watch this series later.
Okay.
Or at least an episode or two of it. And we appreciate all of our learners coming along. This tells you what time of night it is.
You teach at a school, huh? Do you?
We appreciate all of our learner builds.
What? No.
And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, say it with me now, folks, My Hill to Die On. I am tired, apparently. I cannot read text anymore.
Oh, it's time for bed, that's for sure.
All right, so I will come into work tomorrow at 10.
What? No.
I'm kidding. I would be late for my class.